Good evening, everybody.
Kabot Harav, how are you?
Thank God, Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, sorry to make you wait. Let's get started. Okay, Facebook seems to be working tonight. That's good. Yeah, looks like we're going to the next chapter, which is already, one second. We already started it. So we'll go back there. And actually, this one we didn't start. Anyway, so we're starting a new chapter. So it's pretty short. It said just like this. מי שאינו ידו משגת, שאין ידו משגת לקנות נר חנוכה ונר של שבת. If you can't afford to buy two candles, one for Shabbat and one for Hanukkah, ונר של שבת יקנה של שבת. So what should you do? If you have a choice between one and the other, Shabbat comes first. ולא של חנוכה, נר חנוכה, יש לו של שבת ואין לו לקנות של חנוכה, ויש לקידוש היום יקנה נרות ולא יין. So then he gives you another example, which is that another scenario. Let's say he has for Shabbat, ואין לו לקנות של חנוכה, but he doesn't have enough money to buy Hanukkah, candles, and also the wine for Kiddush. So then what should you do? In that case, he says you should do Hanukkah first, right? Candles. So why do we put Hanukkah candle before Kiddush? Because, at night you can make Kiddush on bread, right? You know that, right? There's a rule like this. If a person, for some reason, wants to make Kiddush on bread, he could. So at night, you don't really need the wine so much. And in the morning, it's not really so important, so we allow you to eat when you don't, without wine, if you don't have. So that's why, Hanukkah candle comes before them, because these things are not so crucial. But of course, we're talking about here when he doesn't have, because if he does have, of course, he's obligated to buy all these things, you shouldn't take shortcuts when it comes to mitzvot, right? Only when there's no choice we're talking about. That's the thing, right? Okay, that's the tour. So let's see about Yosef. So it says here the Bet Yosef Kol Siman Ze Pashut Beperek V'Amud Dikin. Where is this coming from? The Gemara on Shabbat, Chav Gimel Amud Bet, Ve'atam shemakdim ner Shabbat l'ner Chanukah. Why does the candle of Shabbat take precedence over the candle of Hanukkah? Mefaresh B'Gemara explains in Gemara Mishum Shalom Beto, because of Shalom Bait, right? What does that mean? Um, um, that means that when you have no light in the house, right, and you're going in the dark, things get pretty hairy, and people start to fight with each other, husband and a wife, this and that, right? So they can get into some kind of a quarrel because there's no light. So yeah, this is the reason why. Mishum de'aminan, we say it's in the Gemara, "Vatiznach mishalom nafshi zo hadakat ner Shabbat shebnei beto mitztarim l'shev b'choshet." So he says, right, that people are not very happy when they're sitting in the dark. He's not a happy camper, right? This guy, so, or the girl, whatever. Everybody's not happy. So that's why we don't want that scenario to occur. What happens when you're not happy? You start fighting, right? You have nothing better to do. So, start with the quarrels, arguments, this, that, boom, bam. And once the quarrels and arguments start, then, right, everything gets destroyed like that. Right, between husband and wife. It's a recipe for disaster, you know what I mean? Once you start fighting with your wife, husband, the spouse, blah, 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 that's already beginning of the end of the marriage, when you do these kinds of things. So gotta watch out, not quarrel, not fight, to make sure you keep shalom bait. Okay, so then he goes on, V'atam shemakdim. So then why does he take precedence of the Hanukkah candles of the Kiddush over Kiddush? Hayom Mishum Kiddush Hayom, on the Kiddush of the day, Mishum Pirsum Nisa, because of the publication of the miracle, right, publicizing the miracle. Ve'afal gav the Kiddush Hayom Deoraita. So he says that even though the Kiddush of the day is from the Torah, Bener Chanuka de Rabbanan, and the Chanukah is only rabbinical. Kivan de Efshar leKiddush shebepat akadum yeshemen leneo. Akdum yeshemen lener Chanukah adif. So therefore, right, so what is he talking about here, right? He's talking about the night Kiddush, which is from the Torah, right? The day Kiddush is not from the Torah. So, but nevertheless, right, Hanukkah is more important. Why? Because you could do Kiddush on bread, as we said, right? That's what he's saying. Okay, that's the end of the Bet Yosef. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch. So he said in the Shulchan Aruch, "Mi she'en yado maseket liknot ner Chanukah b'ner Shabbat." If you can't afford to buy both Hanukkah candles and Shabbat candles, ikne ner Shabbat. Then he should buy what? The Shabbat candles, right? Why is that? Mipnei Shalom Beto, right? Because of the Shalom Bait. Peaceful relations. Peaceful domestic relations. Okay. ואם יש לו לשל שבת, if he has for Shabbat, ואין לו נר חנוכה, but he doesn't have Hanukkah candle, ולעין Kiddush, also both for the Kiddush and the Hanukkah candles, Yom of the day, יקנה לנר חנוכה, so the Hanukkah comes first. Why is that? To publicize the miracle, right? Mishum Pernusum Menisa. Yeah, so right, so you see from there that wine is not really so critical, like the Shabbat candles and the bread also, for you need bread. So yeah, so says Rama here, והוא הדין נר חנוכה קודם לעין הבדלה. So it's also another thing he says, Rama, that the Hanukkah candle comes before wine for Havdalah. I remember the one time, I went to see my old friend, from childhood, whatever. When we were kids, we were friends. Went to visit him. This was like a while ago, 10 years ago, whatever, 15 years ago, maybe more. So, he wants to make Havdalah, and this guy's not so religious, but he likes to do these, basic mitzvot, Havdalah, Kiddush, whatever. So he tells me, okay, I want to make Havdalah. Looks in the fridge, right? He's got no wine. So I told him, I said, no problem, right? I see you have a bottle of the Heineken there, some beer, so use that. So that's what he did, right? He made the Havdalah on the beer. So you can use like, any liquor like that, to make Havdalah if you don't have wine. So that's what he did. So what do, right? You make shakol, right? And shakol niyab dvaro, not borei pri gifen, right? That's what you do when you're using beer or some other liquor, right? You make shakol. That's the way it goes.
Can you use any other beverages?
That's the thing, right? If it's non-alcoholic beverage, let's say for instance, tea or coffee. Can you make a havdalah tea and coffee, right? So the truth is that there's a machloket about this. Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom, he allows to do that when you don't have anything else. But the rabbi, Maran alav shalom, he pushed away this psak of Rav Moshe Feinstein. He said, no way. There's no source for doing such a thing like that. So according to the rabbi Maran, you need something alcoholic.
So grape juice wouldn't work?
Oh no, grape juice is good because I'm talking about non-grape stuff, right?
So
Uh,
non-alcoholic is okay if it's grape juice, but not if it's something else.
you know why? Because the Talmud says if you don't have wine for kiddush, right, what you can do is squeeze some grapes, make kiddush on grape juice. So Gemara says, right, that you can do kiddush on grape juice. So there you don't need alcohol, and the reason is because it's already called wine. You know what I mean? Even before it becomes alcoholic. So therefore, in the case of the grape juice, it's fine, no problem. There's no problem whatsoever. But when it comes to other beverages, the problem is, that we have to use something which is called Hamar Medina. So Hamar Medina is something which is alcoholic, according to what the rabbi writes. He brings sources for this also. So therefore, I personally wouldn't make kiddush on things like that.
Not saying kiddush, I'm talking about Havdalah.
Right, yeah, same thing. The truth is, it's all the same.
Okay.
Yeah, Havdalah and kiddush, you can't do either one on those things. So make sure you got that bottle of Heineken there somewhere in your fridge for a rainy day, right?
So what if you do have wine, but you want to do it on a beer or on like a meat or something?
Right, that's also another question. So there, right, there's different customs. The Ashkenazim are more lenient, to do on like beer, even though they have wine, or they do it on schnapps, some kind of a alcoholic beverage, whiskey, right, things like this. They like to do Ashkenazim. There are many Ashkenazim, they like that stuff better than wine. It's like it's a thing with them, It's like a cultural thing. So if that's the case, the Ashkenazim they're more lenient about that. But the rabbi said, Al Shalman, according to what it says in the Talmud, and the Rishonim, that there's no way, and also in the Shulchan Aruch, by the way, it's a Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says you can't use those beverages if you have wine. So therefore, right, not good to be lenient in that case either, because the truth is, it's not only not good, but not really allowed according to the halacha.
Okay,
But there
one more
are
question.
some opinions, and some Ashkenazim have take these opinions. They accepted these opinions, the custom became like them. So the Ashkenazim have more leeway with that.
Okay,
But the
one more
truth is,
question.
it's not really proper. I'll tell you honestly, from what I've seen, the Talmud and the Poskim, it's very clear, that when you have wine, you should not be using anything else.
Okay, so one more question. What if you have like unopened wine and you would only be using it for Havdalah and then it would go to waste?
Why would it go to waste?
Well, because like I don't drink during the week. I only drink on Shabbat, so
So
it
you
would
can drink it next week,
be a whole nother week though. And then it could, I don't know, like it could potentially be weeks before I would finish it. So I don't like to open a new bottle.
Yeah, let me tell you something really funny. There's a story like this, in the Talmud, uh, in Masechet Shabbat. Really funny story. It says over there like this, that one time uh, there was this rabbi, okay, who the custom was that he would always make a from Malava Malka, he would have like nice steak or something, right? Whatever, and he enjoyed that, whatever. But it wasn't that much, right? I mean, how much can one person eat, right? One steak, okay, that's it, right? So what happened was that one time, yeah. So the story is like this, right? That what this rabbi would do was he would like slaughter an animal just for that one steak, to honor Malava Malka, something like that. So one week, right? This rabbi decides, he has a change of heart. So what was a change of heart? All of a sudden he decides, he says, "Gee whiz, like." If I, slaughter an animal, like it's all going to waste, except that one steak that I'm having. So he says, you know what? Let me just have some, bagel cream cheese, right? Instead. I don't need that steak, I don't want to have that animal going to waste. So they say, right, that what happened was that week, that animal that he was trying to, have pity on, that shouldn't go to waste, it died, whatever, something like that. So then he learned his lesson. He realized that the reason why it died was because he didn't want to use it from Lal Malka. So what does that mean? You see from there, right, that you shouldn't cheap out for mitzvot, just because, something may go to waste, subsequently afterwards. You shouldn't cheap out for mitzvot. When it comes to honor of the mitzvah, and you should, even though you're using only a little bit, right, one little slice, you should do it anyway. So for sure, right? A person should open a new bottle. There's no question about that. That's much more obvious in the case of the cow, right? Because the cow, it's like a lot of meat there. We're talking about tons of meat, right? So that's the way it goes, right? So there you go. Yeah.
Guys, I believe it turns into iodine if you don't finish the bottle, at least in the next couple.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
that's what happened to my bottle of wine.
Oh my God. But you
It's not
must
going
have
to
left
turn
it
into
for a long
iodine.
time.
Uh,
It can't
uh,
turn into iodine.
well,
It
I
might
was
not
over
taste so good, but
exaggerating
it
as
doesn't
I
turn into
usually do, but
iodine.
no, it turns into oh, I forgot the word, but it should be it should be drank like in the next few days at least a week
Yeah,
or
I,
two.
I
yeah,
absolutely agree, for sure. Yeah.
Uh,
yeah. I
because
can.
I almost poisoned myself with that stuff.
Oh, well, it doesn't turn into iodine; it turns into vinegar. That's what it is.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, vinegar.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it's a slow process. I personally can, drink for like 2 weeks the same bottle. I have no problem with that.
No, 2 weeks is okay, but I'm embarrassed. Well, I'm never embarrassed in front of you guys. You know that. Uh, I think this was about a year later. I
Okay.
attempted to drink it.
Oh, a year later. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Oh,
I wasn't educated on
Don't
winery.
do that.
I'm
now
sorry.
that's really dangerous. That's really dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
Watch out. Anyway, I have like a 2 week rule. At 2 weeks I can go.
Yeah, but you
How
drink
are you?
that pink wine. That's
Okay.
different. That's a whole
Even
different.
even the even the dark stuff, I have no problem keeping it 2 weeks.
Well, the dark, I mean, you can probably, well, I don't know. It
Yeah.
does change its taste unless you get like,
It does. It does. Look, you have a very sensitive palate, for a connoisseur, of wine, it makes a big difference. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, like me, I'm not that sensitive like you. So I can go for like 2 weeks. Basically.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Depends on the person also. You know what I mean? Like how sensitive you are. All kinds of things. So yeah. But I mean, of course, the best way to do it is to finish it, like as you said, in a few days. I mean, uh, the way they did it in times of the Talmud, they didn't like have these bottles that we have today. They had like a barrel of wine, which was in a cellar somewhere, whatever. And they would go into the cellar, and open it up and take out, some stuff and use it, So they reused it all the time, like from a barrel. That's the way it was in the old days. Also, they do put preservatives in the wine today, which is called sulfides, all kinds of stuff. So that keeps it, from rotting the wine, but it doesn't keep it forever. I mean, it's there's always a time limit there. Okay, anyway, that's the way it is. All right, so I hope you guys understood that. Let's go on. But there is no bet. Okay, we gotta go to the next chapter. Chapter is finished. Okay, this one is also quite short. So says the Rif here, Kata Bahag, right? It says the Bahag, right? Who's the Bahag, by the way? That's a book called Halachot Gedolot, abbreviation, right? It was written by Rabbi Yudai Gaon, one of the Gaonim. So it says there, Ner Shel Shabbat, right? If you have a Shabbat candle, Bashir Chanuka and Hanukkah. So the question is, which one comes first, right? When you're writing on Friday, which one do you light first? So he says, Yadlik Ner Shel Chanuka Beresha. First you do Hanukkah, right? The emadik shel Shabbat beresha itzar the adluke shel Chanukah. Because he says like this, right? That if you light Shabbat first, you already took on Shabbat, so you can't light anymore, right? The Chanukah, right? As we said, right? We don't paskin this way. The Ashkenazim they do, by the way, but we don't. So therefore, the Sephardim have no problem with this. But this is the custom of the Ashkenazim, Once you light Hanukkah candles, I'm sorry, once you light Shabbat candles, you took on Shabbat. So that means, you can't light the Hanukkah candles, but your husband could do it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because he didn't take on Shabbat. Only the one who lit the Shabbat candles takes it on. So you could tell your husband, okay, my hubby, go and light the Hanukkah candles, right? Anyway, he's supposed to light anyway. So it's no big deal. Okay, so that's what he says. דהה קבלה לשבת בתוספת, כתבו שאין הקבלה תלויה בהדלקה, יכול להדליק של שבת. But it says Tosfot don't agree with this. That Tosfot, right? They say that we don't take on Shabbat by lighting the candles. That's the Sephardi custom, right? So therefore you can do Shabbat first. And then after Chanuka, כל זמן שלא קיבלו Shabbat. As long as they didn't take on Shabbat, they can still light the candles afterwards. Hanukkah candles. Okay, that's the tour. Let's take a look in a bit, Yosef. Let's see what's going on there. By the way, you should know that even though we don't take on Shabbat, right, the Sfaradim anyway, with the Shabbat candles, but the custom is like this, that Shabbat candles come first. Because it's the proper way of doing it, more proper. I'm sorry, the Hanukkah candles comes first. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. So yeah, that's a more proper way. Okay, so says Bet Yosef here, Haran Perek Bamedlikin, the Ran, in this Gemara there in Shabbat, Katav Sharamban Iksha ala Divrei Bal Halachot Gedolot. So he says the Ramban, right, didn't agree with the Halachot Gedolot, right? Vehu Zal Heshiv al Divrei Ramban. But what happened was that the Ran answered the question of the Ramban. So he says we should pass like halachot gedolot. Also from Mordechai comes out this way. Sham abal harosh katav sham, but the Rosh wrote over there the mashma b'gemara. So he says, right, the Rosh, that it's implied in the Talmud that you don't take on Shabbat when you light the candles. Right? The Katav Rabbeinu Yerucham says Rabbeinu Yerucham sheken ikar. That's how the Chai says. Also this rabbi. שכתב בסוף הלכות גדולות, הלכות חנוכה, הלכות חנוכה. He wrote over there על דברי בעל הלכות גדולות, regarding this rabbi, הלכות גדולות, וכבר השיבו עליו הרמב"ן. The Ramban already answered him, right, pushed him out, ורשב"א, ז"ל, and also the רשב"א, ואמרו שאין הדלקת נר שבת בקבלת שהאוסרת. So he says, again, right, we don't take on Shabbat with lighting the candles. They brought sources for this. ולא מצאתי בדברי רבנו קבלה אוסרת בערב שבת. This is also, we don't find in the words of Rabbeinu, right, which is who here? 1 second. So he says we don't find we don't find the Rambam that you take on Shabbat by lighting candles. Ad kan neshano v'siman Naishlam Gimel. So he says in this chapter, right? Herachti was this, as I wrote at length about this. Okay, good. Ulinyan Maseh, but he says practically speaking, though, even though we don't take on Shabbat with the candles, right? Anyway, you should do Chanukah first, right? As just it's good practice. After Divya Cholkim al Bal Halachot Golot, so even the ones that are arguing with Halachot Golot, if he wants to do Chanukah first, he could. So therefore, that's a better way. It's preferred. Why do it? Do Shabbat first? What's the purpose of that? But I will tell you one thing, right, for sure, that one thing I can tell you is that let's say your wife, whatever, the lady of the house, whatever, is running late, and she can't light early, on time. She's running a little late. So there, if the husband has to go to shul, so he should light the Hanukkah candles first, which is anyway the proper thing to do, right? So there's no problem with that. I didn't say it right. It didn't come out right. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so this is book recommendation. אף על פי שמדליקים בעוד יום, מברכים עליה משום, it says even though we're lighting on Erev Shabbat, right, on Friday, it's still daytime, we still bless on it. משום דאי אפשר בעניין אחר, because we can't do it any other way, right? What choice do you have on Shabbat? חשיבה הכשר מצווה והביאה ראיה לדבר. So he says, therefore it's considered to be, right, a mitzvah, preparation of the mitzvah. So, okay. So let's see Shulchan Aruch, and we're done. Okay, good. בערב שבת מדליקים נר חנוכה תחילה. So he says, on Erev Shabbat, right, on Friday, what do we do first? First Hanukkah, right? And then Shabbat. Even though, as we said, right, you could do it the other way around, but this is the more proper way of doing it. Says the Rama, so he says, you bless on it just like on the weekday, as we said in Bet Yosef. Even though you're lighting this gadol, you're lighting still in the daytime, you know? By the way, what's the earliest time you can light the Hanukkah candles on Erev Shabbat on Friday? Like an hour before sunset. Before that, you can't do it. So you can't light at 2 o'clock, you know what I mean? That's too early.
Is it that's after Plaha Mincha, no?
Right, that's what we call Plaga Mincha, yes.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll finish here. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness. Bezat Hashem. Tomorrow, I will not see you. I'll see you Sunday night. Tomorrow is Shabbat, God willing. Bezat Hashem. You should have a great Shabbat Shalom. Pray for the great army that's doing an amazing job, right? Uprooting all those, right, those little rats that are hiding in the tunnels over there. They'll get all those rats out of there. Bezat Hashem. They got one big one today, so Bezat Hashem. They'll get all of them, and all the Nazis and all the rats, the sewer rats over there will be uprooted. And Bezat Hashem, Biat Mashiach will come and save us from all Amalek. Bezat Hashem. Amen v'amen. Chazak u'baruch.
Kavod Harav, thank you so much. Shabbat
God
Shalom.
bless. All the best. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless.